So this is Ashley, and Ashley is about to move overseas to be with the man of her dreams, and it's about to go horribly wrong. Now this all starts back when Ashley is 12, and she's a normal 12-year-old, and she's from Canada, and like a lot of kids her age, Ashley likes to chat online with her friends, through like social media and stuff. And one day, she makes a new friend on Facebook. This guy, Jack. And Jack is 16 and he lives in England. And Ashley thinks Jack is cool. I mean, he's a little older, he's from another country, but they're just friends. So then a few years pass, and Ashley is 15 now, and she and Jack are still friends and they still chat online, but at this point, they've both grown up a little bit, and Ashley is starting to think he's kind of fine. And so, boom, they start dating. And it's a long-distance relationship, and they've never met in person. I mean, he's still in England and she's in Canada, but still, she really likes him. And a few more years pass. And that is when everything changes, because Ashley is now 19, so she's legally an adult. And Jack is like 22 or 23 at this point. And they're still dating, and they decide to give this a real shot to see if this relationship can work for real, not just long distance, not just online. And so Ashley, she gets a 6-month tourist visa, and she books a flight to England, because she's gonna go live with him for 6 months until her visa expires. And of course, her mom is a little concerned that she's going to live with a guy she's never met in person, but unfortunately, there's no stopping Ashley. She is determined to see this through. So she does. She flies from Canada all the way over to the UK. And there, she's finally in England, and she meets her boyfriend, Jack, for the first time in person. And this is actually their first photo together. And so they follow through with their plan. She moves into his apartment, and they're having a great time together. This is actually a photo of them, and this is another photo of them. But then, about a month passes, and it's Christmas time, and Jack, he's being such a good boyfriend, he goes out and he gets a tree, and he surprises Ashley with a kitten, and she really loves cats. And so all of this seems to be going really well, better than they had planned. Until... Okay, here's the thing about Jack. Jack, he's kind of a turd. Like, he's unemployed, he lives in public housing on government assistance, he apparently smokes Zaza all day and plays video games. No ambition, no real attempts at getting a job, just not a lot going on for him. And I don't know if any of this bothers Ashley or not, but what does start to bother her is how controlling he's become since she's moved in. Like, he'll get mad if he thinks she's talking to anyone else. He'll get mad at her for being on TikTok. Then, a few days after Christmas, Jack is going through her phone for some reason, and he finds some numbers that she blocked. And he gets all jealous, and he assumes that she blocks these numbers because they're her former lovers or something. I don't know, it's stupid. Regardless, they start arguing, and Jack suddenly just snaps, and he straight up starts smacking her around. Now, no one should be smacking anyone around. That's horrible in itself. But also, he is significantly bigger than her. I mean, you can see them in this picture here. So when he puts his hands on her, it doesn't take much force for him to really hurt her. Now, despite this, unfortunately, Ashley doesn't leave him like I wish she would have. However, from that day, things start to feel different. Like, she still loves him, but maybe Jack isn't the guy she thought he was. Then, a few weeks later, things get crazy again. Like, Jack is all jealous, and he's going through her phone again, and he finds some old messages on her phone, and these are messages that are back from when she lived in Canada, so yeah, they're old, but Jack doesn't care. He gets pissed, and they start arguing, and he starts yelling, and he picks up a beer mug, and boom, he breaks it over her head. Dude is just trash. And this whole time, all this is going on, Ashley is lying to her mom, like, no, Mom, I'm totally happy here. I don't know, I guess she doesn't want her mom to hate her boyfriend. I don't know. Not only that, as time goes on, Jack gets more and more abusive. Like, he's been spying on all her texts, and so she has to be careful about all the messages she sends her friends so that they don't get misinterpreted by him. Like, some messages she has to send and then quickly delete before he sees them. It's crazy. Also, she slowly stops talking to her family so much. And her family and friends, they can tell something is off, but they're halfway across the world back in Canada. So they're not like 100% sure what's going on. However, pretty quickly, they start to figure it out. Like one day, Ashley is at the apartment talking to her sister on FaceTime, and Jack, he gets mad at her for some dumb reason, and he suddenly just flips out, and he starts throwing things at her and screaming at her, and sister's watching all this go down like, hey, Ashley, why don't you just come home? But still, Ashley won't. I guess she's in love, or maybe she's afraid. I don't really know. But about a week later, Ashley's on FaceTime with her sister again. And Jack, he's all mad at her again, and he suddenly flips out again, and he runs at her, and he tackles her, and he starts punching her in the head. And sister, she's still on FaceTime watching all this, and she's like, what the f***? And so at this point, sister has had enough. She can't let this continue. And she goes and she tells their mom what she saw. And of course, mom is like, oh, hell no. And she immediately calls Ashley and she's like, we're getting you a flight and you're coming home. And so finally, they all agree. Ashley is getting out of that toxic situation. She's getting on the next flight back to Canada. Even Jack agrees. I mean, he understands that she's leaving on the next flight. However, there's a problem. It's 2022. And the pandemic is still kind of going on. And Ashley is required to get a negative COVID test before she can get on a plane and fly international. And so, unfortunately, she can't fly that day. The soonest she can fly is in 3 days. But then, the next day, it all goes wrong. So they're at the apartment, and I guess Jack isn't doing too well, and he finally realizes that he's about to lose control of her for good. And so he provokes an argument with her, and they start fighting. And I'm sure he's like screaming at her, and then pow, he starts hitting her. And he hits her again and again. And then he picks up the kitten that he bought, and he throws it against the wall. And Ashley is horrified, and she runs out of the apartment to a neighbor's house, and the neighbor intervenes, and everyone calms down. But Ashley knows this isn't over, and Jack isn't done. So after a bit, she low-key tries to message her sister back in Canada. But unfortunately, with the time difference, it's like 3 a.m. there. So sister and everyone else there is asleep. And at some point during all this, Jack finally loses it. And he grabs Ashley and she tries to get away, but he overpowers her. Then he reaches out, grips her neck, and he starts strangling her hard. And when that doesn't finish her off, he grabs a knife and boom, he stabs her right in the chest. And he stabs her again and again and again until she's unalived. And he ends up stabbing her 90 times. 90. Then he goes to his Facebook page and he changes his profile picture to this picture of him and Ashley smiling. And he writes the caption, "Mine forever." Yikes. Meanwhile, back in Canada, Ashley's family wakes up to all these missed messages from her. But now they can't get a hold of her. So they reach out to sort of a friend that Ashley knows back in England, and that friend goes over to Jack's apartment to check on Ashley, and she knocks and no one answers, but she can hear something going on inside the apartment. So she calls 999, the emergency number there, and then police show up, and in the apartment, they find Ashley's body there. And so, bam, police arrest Jack. Here's his creepy-ass mugshot. And he ends up pleading guilty to her murder, and he's sentenced to 23 years to life in prison.
A British man has been sentenced to life in prison for killing a young BC woman who'd gone to visit him in England.
That's sad.